Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Vishveshvari Mata ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai. In our last discourse, we heard about the Brahmin son that the king bought, crying very loudly in Vishvamitra, wanting King Harishchandra to stop the sacrifice, but Harishchandra refused. We'll go on with chapter 17. Vedavyasa said, O king, when Vishvamitra saw that the boy was very pitifully, he went to him with a merciful heart and said, O child, I'm giving to you the mantra of Varuuna. Recollect this within your mind, and if you go on repeating the mantra silently, you will certainly fare well. The sorrowful Sunashipa, hearing thus from Vishvamitra, began to repeat silently in his mind the above mantra, clearly pronouncing each letter. No sooner Sunashipa repeated the mantra than the kind-hearted Varuuna came suddenly before the boy, greatly pleased with him. Everyone in the assembly became thoroughly surprised to see Varuuna Deva before them, and they all became glad and chanted hymns in honor of him. The diseased Harishchandra was also thoroughly surprised, fell to his feet, and with folded palms began to sing hymns to Varuuna, standing before him. Harishchandra said, O Devas, I am very vicious. My intellect is much defiled. I am a sinner before you, O merciful one. Now show your mercy and sanctify this humble self. I was very much troubled on not having a son, so I had disregarded your words. Now show your mercy on me. What offense can cling to him whose intellect is already out of order? A beggar does not see his own faults. I am also in want of a son, so I could not see my defects. O Lord, being afraid of the terrors of hell, I have deceived you. Those who are sonless cannot find rest anywhere, especially he who is barred from the heavens. Being terrified by the dictate of the sastras, I have shown disregard to your words, O Lord. You are wise, and I am ignorant, especially I am extremely afflicted by this terrible disease. I am also deprived of my son, so you ought not to take any more notice of my faults. O Lord, I do not know where my son has gone, O merciful one. Perhaps he, being afraid of his life, has fled away to some forest. For your satisfaction, I have now commenced your sacrifice with this purchased young man. I gave an equivalent value, and I purchased this boy. O Deva of Devas, your sight only has taken away from me infinite troubles. Now, if you be pleased, I can be free of this disease, dropsy, and my troubles will be over. Hearing thus the words of the diseased king, Varuuna, the Deva of Devas, took pity on him and spoke. Varuuna said, O king, Sunashipa is uttering hymns of praise to me. He has become very distressed, so quit him. Your sacrifice too is now completed. Now let you be free from your present disease. Thus saying, Varuuna freed the king of the disease in the presence of all the counselors. The king became possessed of a beautiful body and got himself completely cured and shone bright before the assembly. Shouts of victories arose from the midst of the sacrificial ground when the Brahmin boy was freed of his bonds of rope by the mercy of the high-souled Varuuna. The king became very glad on this, being recovered immediately from his disease, and Sunashipa too became free from his anxiety and pacified when he got himself liberated from his being immolated on the sacrificial post. Then the king Harishchandra completed his sacrifice with great modesty. Afterwards, Sunashipa addressed the counselors with folded palms and said, O counselors, you know well the Dharma. O speakers of truth, kindly specify, according to the dictate of the Vedas, O omniscient ones, whose son am I now? Who is my most respectful father? Please deliver your judgment, and I will take his refuge. When Sunashipa spoke thus, the members of the assembly began to speak to each other. The boy must be the son of Ajgata, Who else could he be? The boy is born of the limbs of Ajagartha and was nursed by him according to Dharma. So he must be also his son. Who else can he be? Vamadeva then told the people of the assembly, the father of the boy sold the son for money. The king purchased him. So he can be said to be the son of the king, or he may be called the son of Varuuna, inasmuch as he freed him from the rope of bondage. For he who nourishes another with food, who saves one from one's fear, who protects one by giving mercy, who bestows bearing to anybody, and he who is given birth to any of the above 5 classes of persons can be called the father. O king, thus someone turned out to be in favor of Ajagartha, some others in favor of the king, but nobody came to any definite conclusion. When matters stood in this doubtful condition, the omniscient, all-respected Vasistha Deva addressed the disrupting members thus. O high-souled ones, kindly hear what the Shrutis say on this point. When the father has cut off his filial attachment and has sold his son, his fatherly connections has ceased then. No doubt this boy was purchased by King Harishchandra, but when the king fastened him to the sacrifice post, he cannot be called his father either. Again, when the boy is singing hymns in honor of Varuuna, he being glad freed him of his bondage, so Varuuna cannot be called his father. For whoever praises a god by the great mantra, that Deva becomes pleased with him and gives him wealth, life, cattle, freedom, and even final emancipation. Rather, Vishvamitra saved the boy by giving him this critical moment the powerful great mantra of Varuuna. Hence the boy can be called as the son of Vishvamitra and of no one else. Hearing the words of Vasistha, all the members of the assembly gave their unanimous consent, and Vishvamitra, with his heart filled with love, exclaimed, O son, come to my house, and caught hold of the right hand and Sunashipa too accompanied him and went away. Varuuna also went to his abode with a gladdened heart. The counselors too departed, freed from his disease. The king gladly began to govern his subjects. At this time, his son Rohita heard all about Varuuna and became very glad, and leaving the impossible forest passes and mountains, returned home. The messengers informed the king of the arrival of the prince. The king heard, and his heart overflowed with love, and he gladly came there with no delay. Seeing the father coming, Rohita became filled with love and overpowered with sorrow for the long separation, and began to shed tears and fell prostrate at his feet. The king raised him up and embraced him gladly, and smelling his head, inquired of his welfare. When the king was thus asking his son, taking him on his lap, the hot tears of joy flowed down his eyes and fell on the head of the prince. The king and the prince then began to govern together his kingdom. The king described in detail all the events of the sacrifice where human victims are immolated. He started next the Rajasu sacrifice, the best of all sacrifices, and duly worshipping the Muni, Vasistha, made him the main sacrificer at the sacrifice. When this grand sacrifice was finished, the king respected the Muni Vasistha with abundant wealth. Once on a time, the Muni Vasistha went gladly to the romantic heaven of Indra, and Vishvamitra was there too. And both the Munis then met with each other. The two Maharishis took their seats in the heavens, but Vishvamitra was astonished to see Vasistha greatly respected in Indra's hall of assembly, and asked him thus, O Muni, where have you received this great honor and worship, O highly fortunate one? Who has worshipped you thus? Speak out truly. Vasistha said, O Muni, there is a king named Harishchandra. He is very powerful and my client. That king performed the great Rajasuya sacrifice with abundant dakshina. There is no other king truthful like him. He is virtuous, charitable, and ever ready to and kind in governing his subjects. O Vishvamitra, I have got my worship and honor in this sacrifice. Are you telling me to speak truly? Again, I speak truly to you that there never was a king truthful, heroic, charitable, and more religious like him, nor there will be such a one. Hearing such words, the Vishvamitra, of a very angry temper, spoke to him with reddened eyes. O Vasistha, Harishchandra obtained a boon from Varuuna when he made a certain promise. Then he cheated Varuuna with deceitful words, so he is a liar and a cheat. Why are you praising then that king, O intelligent one? Let us now stake all of our virtues that we have earned since our birth by our asceticism and studies. You have praised exceedingly the king, who is a great cheat. But if I cannot prove him to be a liar of the first degree, I will lose all my virtues from my birth. But if otherwise, then all your virtues will be destroyed. Thus the two munis quarreled with each other, and making this stake, departed from heaven and went to their respective ashrams. Here ends the 17th chapter in the 7th book on the freeing of Sunashipa and the curing of Harishchandra in the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Veda Vyasa. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai, Vishveshvari Mata ki jai.